right, so today we're diving into a life that's really got me intrigued.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Major Coxson. I mean, this guy, he was like walking a tightrope, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
legit business, activism, and then boom, the criminal underworld, all at the same time. It's wild. And we're basing this mostly on his Wikipedia entry, which, by the way, it's packed with stuff.
We'll buckle up then, because with Coxon, contradictions are kind of his thing, even from the start.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Born in 29, rural Pennsylvania, and right off the bat, you see the ambition. Like
Yeah.
pre-civil rights America, right? This guy is running shoe shine stands,
Wow.
car washes. He's even getting into used car lots and dealerships. I mean, not exactly your typical path, especially for a young African-American back then.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, just to make those ventures work in that era would have been like incredibly difficult,
Right.
let alone with all the racial prejudice on top of it.
Absolutely. Opportunities were, well, let's just say limited. But Coxon, he's like, nah, I'm not playing by those rules, you know? And it wasn't just about him getting ahead. It feels like he was trying to like push back against how things were, create a space for himself.
Yeah, I see that. And then, right in the middle of it all, he goes and serves in the military in 46.
Almost like a pause, you know, before the next chapter really gets going.
Yeah, pause.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, right? Because the military, even with its own problems with race back then, there's that structure, the discipline. I wonder if that played a part in how he approached things, like business later on.
Could be. Or even, let's be real, even in his dealings in the criminal world later on.
That's a good point. Okay, so let's get to the Rolls-Royce Lounge in Philly. He co-owns this glamorous nightclub with, get this, Stanley Branch, the activist.
Oh, wow. Talk about a mixed bag, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't just glitz and glamour there.
Yeah, the Rolls-Royce is where those lines get really blurry. You have this hot spot, the city's elite is there, politicians, entertainers.
That was pretty quinky.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
But underneath it all, it was also a front. Illegal activities, connections to the underworld. Pretty ironic, huh? A place for celebration, but also for some shady business.
Man, it's like something out of a movie. The fancy front hiding a darker truth.
Exactly. And Coxon, he wasn't just some hands-off owner. Just look at his record. 17 arrests. 10 convictions. We're talking fraud, larceny, even a car theft ring. This guy was deep in it, not just dipping his toes.
Wow. And from what I read, he really made it big in the drug trade too, right? That's a long way from shoe shine stands.
It is. And what gets me is how he became this bridge between the African-American and the Italian-American organized crime groups. Like he was playing a high-stakes game, understanding the power dynamics, really navigating a dangerous world.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So on one hand, he's, up to his neck in organized crime, but then he's tight with Muhammad Ali, like close friends. That's a bit of a head scratcher.
It's definitely a contrast. Ali, right? The champ. Symbol of black pride, fighting against the system.
Yeah.
And Coxon, working in the shadows. But they were close. Neighbors even. Out there in Cherry Hill.
Makes you wonder what that friendship was all about. What did they, see in each other?
Maybe it was ambition, both of them defying expectations. Ali, even with all his fame, he was still dealing with prejudice, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And Coxon, yeah, he's involved in illegal stuff, but he's also trying to build something. For himself, maybe for his community, too.
And get this. Ali dedicates a win in 1970 to Coxson, calls him the future mayor of Camden. Bold move, considering Coxson's reputation.
It was. Shows how much Ali respected him, Like he saw something in Coxson, maybe leadership potential, or just that audacity, that willingness to challenge the rules.
Speaking of which, Coxson does run for mayor of Camden in 72.
Oh, yeah.
Big swing, right? But was he serious about cleaning things up, or was it like a power grab?
It's the question, right? Especially with that campaign slogan. Most politicians start in office, end up arrested. I'm going to reverse that.
Wow. I mean, everyone knew his past. It's like he was almost owning it, daring people to judge him.
Yeah. Maybe it was genuine, wanting to make things better. Or maybe it was a calculated move. Tough to say for sure.
Well, he loses to Angelo Arricchetti, who ironically gets caught up in that abscam scandal later on.
Oh, right.
Maybe Camden just wasn't ready for Mayor Coxson.
Maybe, or maybe, like we were saying, he just didn't get how politics really work, all the alliances, the compromises.
Yeah, it's a whole different game. But anyway, whatever his plans were, they got cut short, tragically.
Yeah.
73, just a year after the election, Coxson's murdered at home.
And not a, quiet, peaceful thing
Oh,
either.
no.
It was brutal. Him, his companion, her kids, all bound and shot. A real message, you know?
Yeah.
Sent shockwaves through the whole city.
That's just awful. Sounds like something out of a gangster movie, not real life.
It does. It shows just how dangerous that world was.
Yeah.
Money, connections, even being friends with Ali couldn't protect him from that violence.
So who did it? Did they ever find out? Someone must have wanted him gone bad.
The theories are complicated. Just like his life, really. Main suspect seems to be the Black Mafia. Maybe a heroin deal with the New York Mafia went south?
The Italian Mafia. Man, what could have gone wrong that bad?
That's the mystery, right? Organized crime, it thrives on secrecy. Loyalty, fear, violence keep things in check. But when those break down, things get messy. Fast. And the thing is, they never solved it. All these years later, it's still a mystery.
It's crazy. It really shows you how tough it is to investigate organized crime. Especially when everyone's so good at covering their tracks.
Exactly. It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing.
Yeah. You see these connections, these possible motives, but the full story, it's still out there.
Right. And there are even these names that keep popping up. Ronald Harvey, for one.
Oh, yeah, him. Didn't he end up convicted for something else?
Yeah, a massacre in D.C. Years later makes you think, what else was he involved in? And then there's Samuel Christian. His part in all this is even murkier.
It's also shadowy. But I guess that's what makes Major Coxson's story so interesting.
It is. It's not just like reading a biography. It's more like peeking into this whole web of, you know, relationships, ambitions, betrayals. Makes you think about the good and bad in everyone, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, this guy, he was a civil rights activist, a businessman, friends with Muhammad Ali, and a big player in the criminal world. How does all that fit into one life?
It's a real paradox, isn't it? And I think it makes us ask some tough questions, like how do we even judge a guy like Coxson? Can you separate the good he did from the bad, or do you got to look at it all together?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy to figure out.
Nope. But that's what makes this deep dive so well deep. It's not just about the facts. It's about like wrestling with his legacy, what it all means.
It really gives you a look into a crazy time in America, too, right? Like all the social change, the racial tension, and everyone chasing the American dream, some in good ways, some not so much. So big question as we wrap up our look at Major Coxson. What can we, take away from all this? What have we learned from this journey?
Well, I think it reminds us that even the most, messed up lives can teach us something. We can see Coxson as a warning, right? Like what happens when ambition goes too far. Or we can see him as someone who, even with all his flaws, still did things his own way, achieved things that, shouldn't have been possible for him.
It's a lot to think about. We like to have our stories simple, good guys, bad guys, but Coxson shows us it's not that easy.
Right. Life is complicated. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. Look deeper, question what you think you know, because even in the most contradictory lives, there's always more to the story.
So as we finish our deep dive, here's a final thought for you. How do you judge a life that was both good and bad? A life that still makes us wonder all these years later. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.